Okay, ich brauche mal Stimmung hier. Vielen Dank. Ihr seht schon, ich bin kein Hacker. Und vielen Dank, dass so viele hier schon am Start sind. Ich bin der Jan und ich werde ein bisschen über WLAN sprechen, aus einer Business-Perspektive. Und wir können anytime Fragen machen und bitte dann die Mikrofons verwenden, damit es auch aufgezeichnet werden kann. Mein Background, ich habe eine kleine Beratungsfirma, Mobile Economy und ein Online-Magazin, den Mobilizer, und bin ein bisschen bei den Freifunkern aktiv. Entschuldigung. Und habe hier auch eine Buchempfehlung, ein bisschen weiter einsteigen wollen. Da steht private versus kommerzielle WLAN-Netzwerke. Eigentlich meine ich damit Non-Profit versus diejenigen Leute, die mit den sogenannten Hotspots viel Geld verdienen wollen. Es gibt noch einen weiteren Untertitel: auf der Suche nach billiger, drahtloser Bandbreite. By the way, anybody wants me to talk in English? Or yeah, I will give you a very quick introduction into free networks and freifunk.net. And then we are looking at the commercial WLAN industry. And then I will tell you about my favorite analysis framework, which is a so-called mobile economy triangle. And then the operators and the current mobile device market, not referring to laptops, because of course anybody here is having a laptop and most of you have a WLAN adapter. Then we are looking at pricing of mobile data. And we will be looking at commercial hotspot pricing to find out how expensive it can be to go online through a commercial hotspot provider. And then we will be looking at a couple of business cases for a commercial hotspot and a private or non-profit WLAN, which is rather working on a cost-sharing basis. And then a couple of issues important if you want to set up your own private hotspot, share it and roam it with other hotspots. And then a nice idea, which is a purchasing community helping us to buy the equipment and the connectivity a little bit less expensive. And then we have a comparison of UMTS and Wi-Fi or WLAN. And I give you two brief case studies about a couple of guys who are setting up such networks here in Berlin and in Denmark. Okay, so I was given 2 hours for this session, and I think it's a little bit too much. So I was producing content yesterday, and the quickest way to do it is just cut and paste of screenshots, okay? So Freifunk, it's becoming a so-called eingetragener Verein. It's an association in foundation, so to speak, and what they did is they did a very nice summer convention this year in September here in Berlin. And it's basically a non-commercial project, which is just a website and a couple of people behind it, and they are trying to push the idea of opening up your own access point at home or in your company or in your school or university or wherever you have access to a location and the right to do it. And free means it is publicly accessible. Of course, you can do a little bit of user management. It is most probably non-commercial. Maybe somebody sponsoring it because you already pay your DSL flat rate, or you want to ask your neighbors for a little bit of money just in order to share the cost of the whole setup and connectivity. And then it's owned by the community or an individual, and hopefully it will not be censored. And of course, networking, you all know what networking is about. And I'm now looking for a new flat in Berlin, and there's a couple of decision factors. And one is that I have a rooftop access and a DSL connectivity, fast DSL. And then the more activities come up, maybe around one house, and then the neighbor is going to connect to it with a directed point-to-point WLAN antenna. And then the different networks are going to interconnect, and hopefully this can happen quickly, and the people find each other who are interested in the subject. And this is definitely one of the ideas behind freifunk.net. And then, of course, if you're outside of Germany, if you live there or if you go there for a trip, business or private, then you can find, with the help of this website, freenetworks.org, many other people on the planet who have quite a lot of experience, sometimes a couple of years already, in running, operating private networks. In Germany, probably you know mobileaccess.de. It's a database where you can register your free or commercial hotspot. Unfortunately, the design is a little bit bad and you cannot really search for free or commercial hotspots. You get the full list. So probably they should improve their database design a little bit. Okay, now this is like the setup for the free minds, and now we come to the people who make money with WLAN. You all know that WLAN is a really big subject. Lots of companies are jumping on the bandwagon. Startup companies, established incumbent players, and I don't know how many multi-billion dollars the size of this industry already is, but now we are going to look at what the people are doing out there. And if you go to Japan, you will find out that you can get a DSL flat rate connection, which is offering you 24 megabit per second, and you pay $30 a month. And that is a journalist from the website Wireless Watch Japan, Paul Callender, and Robert Lang. He is working with a Swisscom Eurospot. It's a daughter company of Swisscom Mobile, and they are buying up hotspot providers all over Europe, commercial hotspot providers. And they have over 250 hotspots commercial at the moment, and anything between 0 or 100 users can happen, and maybe 10% of the locations are already profitable. And an average is 5 to 10 connections per day. And then, of course, only some people can and won't afford to pay for access in a hotspot. So the target group are probably very few people of us sitting in the room here, but rather business people traveling. And most probably it's even not a question of pricing, but rather of awareness. Most business people don't even know that you can book a hotel that is online without wires, or go to a restaurant where you can be online, or whatever. And at the end of the presentation, we are trying to just guess how much money, or maybe how little money, could have been used in order to Wi-Fi enable a very big part of Germany. As you know, the UMTS licenses have been bought by 6 companies, and now only 4 are left in the game in Germany for over 50 billion euro. And finally, next year during CeBIT, the companies are all launching UMTS in Germany. Okay, what do you need? You need cheap equipment. Linksys is such a company. It is now owned by Cisco. And for the surveillance freaks among you, you can already buy video cameras that have a WLAN connectivity included, and maybe put it up in front of a police station or in front of a, I don't know what. And then, of course, there's many other companies, and most of the big ones are American. And you can get whatever DSL connection, quite cheap, a flat rate, multi-user for 80 euro, a fast DSL connection. And then again, Swisscom Eurospot, they have 1,500 locations under contract, and a couple of hundred are live. So it's really a run to get a good location, and sometimes people are really pitching and trying to offer a bigger revenue share to the location owner and so on in order to get the hotels and the airport lounges and the train stations and so on. And Boingo, maybe some of you know Boingo. It's a so-called hotspot aggregator in the USA. And even if you are a one-person company and you only have one commercial hotspot, you can register, or if you already have set up a little network, you can do it. And they have 5,000 locations under contract and over 2,000 are live. Exelon is a company in Luxembourg, and they are working on the subject of hotspot roaming. Of course, once you have your laptop, you are looking for free hotspots, but sometimes you have to pay. And this basically means that all the hotspots have an agreement on how to share the money if a user from hotspot A is actually going online in hotspot B. And they have a payment solution with a mobile telephone. I'm going to explain right now how it is working. And this basically means that hotspot is becoming a hot shop because you could be offered any product, be it a physical good or a digital good in that location. So it can become a universal shopping zone, not only the online zone. Of course, if you have a credit card, you can buy at Amazon in a hotspot too. So here, Exelon, as you can see, it is a roaming and payment solution based on close cooperation with the mobile network operator. The mobile network operators, basically all of them have now entered the WLAN industry. In most cases, they are not first mover, they are following startup companies. So the mobile number, the MS-ISDN, is given by the operator to Exelon, which already is quite difficult because you need a lot of trust into a new company based in Luxembourg that is now getting important data of your subscribers. Anyway, the user number 2 is going into a hotspot with a laptop, and then he enters, as you can see at the bottom, pay by mobile phone here, just the mobile station ISDN. And then an authentication request, of course, is going to Exelon, and it is validated if that user with that number is allowed to get a service. And then an IVR, interactive voice response, mobile terminated call is generated by the computer, and then the user has to press 1 in order to authenticate the payment, because, as you know, anybody could enter any number there. So just press 1 button, confirmation through key 1, and then you are authorized, the accounting is being done, and a so-called tab file is created. It's a standardized account data exchange format, and then you are billed to your telephone bill. This is only one way of how you can pay in the hotspot. Another company, they are quite big in the USA, also working on bringing together many separated wireless networks into a kind of global virtual network, and they are called iPass, and they have a big deal now with T-Mobile in the USA. Brainhard is an interesting Swedish venture capitalist that is quite hot on the wireless ISP subject, and they are one of the investors behind Exelon. Okay, now let's look at a couple of very interesting other technologies. This is actually my favorite company. It's a company called IP Wireless, and they're using a wide area network, not a local area network, but a wide area network standard. It's actually a UMTS standard, so-called TD, CDMA, TDD. What we are getting here in Germany with the UMTS licenses is so-called WCDMA FDD, and the main difference is time division duplexing is optimal for data delivery and suboptimal for voice delivery. and the UMTS network we are getting, of course, is being delivered by the big network operators, and they are making most of their money with voice communication. And so they were looking for a third-generation technology which would enhance the capacity, the voice capacity above all, of the mobile wireless network. So we are going to have data in the UMTS network here in Germany, but it will be small data rates and probably limited capacity and probably high pricing, as we are going to see a little bit later today. But IP Wireless is a cool company, and they are providing progressive operators with their 3G technology. And one of them is based in Stuttgart, a company called AirData. They launched, I believe it was September, and they have a solution called Portable DSL. Of course, it has nothing to do with the DSL. It's only a marketing slang claim. But because it can offer DSL speed. But it's basically the technology I just presented before by IP Wireless. And it is offering, it can offer even more, but you get 768 kilobit per second down and 128 up. And you pay €45 complete flat per month. And they bought a wireless local loop license for 120 cities many years ago, and they played around with WLAN technology and they couldn't be successful. And then 2 years ago they found IP wireless technology and made an agreement with the Regulierungsbehörde, with the regulator. And they are not allowed to do handover, voice handover between one cell and the neighboring cell, because this would mean too much competition for the UMTS licensees. So you actually have to put down or switch off your laptop, and then you move a little bit, you switch it on again, and you are online again. They are covering 45 square kilometers with about 17 or 18 base stations in Stuttgart, and they have a couple of 100 customers only at the moment. And now they're looking for money, and hopefully they find the money from investors and then come to Berlin and many other cool cities in order to give us wide area network, because you can be away from the base station a couple of kilometers even. And you can also connect an access point to your portable DSL solution, and then you have a kind of portable hotspot. And if we hadn't all the connectivity here in the BCC, probably next year I'm going to have my AirData modem with me, and there will be a wireless access point included, and then I can provide bandwidth to the people around me, and this I could do, of course, anywhere. If I visit a friend, or if I go to a restaurant or to a lounge or whatever. And this is a TV and radio company in South Africa, and they are now launching the same technology. It's also a new market entrant. And of course, here you have the situation that they want to provide wireless bandwidth to rural areas too, where people don't have any connectivity. And it has a very wide range, and they are also going to offer flat rates. You can surf through the URLs yourself. And they will be launching early next year. So here this technology is being used to fight against all the established players, and here the technology is used to deliver connectivity mainly to areas who are still offline. Okay, Flarion, it's a competitor of IP Wireless, and T Ventures is one of the investors in Flarion, but it's a proprietary, non-standardized technology, but it's probably as good as IP Wireless, and a couple of other companies like Qualcomm have also really fast 3G technology. Mesh networks, originally from the military. The technology is coming from the military, and they have their own meshing algorithms and anything. And for GE Systems, the guys are coming from Hamburg, and one of them, Bruno, he was at the Freifunk Summer Convention in September. And they are creating a lot of cool stuff, and among other things, a Linux-based mesh AP. It's a small thing, it's running with a battery, and you can put it somewhere and then it can route data. It's quite cool. Ergo Networks, it's one of the companies who are building WLAN chip technology, and they are improving basically the performance in terms of speed and security and range of existing 802.11x standards. So WLAN is still in development. We are only at the beginning of what can be done. And then you are looking at the applications that you want to use in the hotspot wherever you are online. And Coligo is one of the companies who are offering group sharing, of course, file sharing on an ad hoc basis. So whenever a new company, whenever a new computer logs on into the network, they immediately can connect with the people in the group and start communicating and sharing data. So, I mean, we all do it here, probably not me, but many of you, and this will probably be one of the interfaces for the normal user. And then, now we are coming to one of the most interesting applications. If you are in a hotspot, if you have a portable DSL connection like AirData, I went down there a couple of times. I got very nice demos, and it's really, really fast. Clear streaming video and high quality voice over IP. And this guy behind the company, Michael Robertson, he's a founder of mpeg3.com, already a multimillionaire, and he wanted to develop a new disruptive business model. And he created hardware, a voice over IP hardware based on the ZIP protocol, session initiation protocol. And you can buy 2 phones, and they really look like an old telephone with a keypad and even a cord. It's not cordless. Built in Taiwan, and probably new OEM companies are coming to the market, taking that software platform and bringing out nice devices, even portable mobile devices. But here, if you want to talk for free until the end of your life with your grandmother or your whoever, then you buy just a zip phone for $129, and you hook it into your router, and then you make a call, and you are available, of course, as you know, the people who know zip, always under one number, because you log into a directory, and then you have your temporary IP address, and you can always be found. So here they have DECT phones in order to test and play a little bit around with the DECT phones, but maybe next year already we will be running around, probably not with a big device, but rather with a small device, and we will be all doing voice over IP in this WLAN thing here, and we don't have to pay any cent to the mobile network operators. Okay, so they have an interesting business model, because they are only making money with the hardware and not with any service they are operating. And these guys, of course, you also know, they don't even make money from hardware. They will be making money with a couple of premium services, and by interconnecting their voice over IP network to the POSTN, just any public fixed telephone network or even mobile network, and they have a little margin on the interconnection fees, and that is how they will make money, and probably they are going to develop a couple of premium services too. But it's a big number and quite fashionable. And the cryptophone guys, of course, they know more about it technology-wise. Okay, now I'm going more into the real question of how much does it cost to build a WLAN network. I showed you a little bit what's happening out there in the industry. And whenever you are searching for wireless bandwidth and you're not prepared to pay a lot of money for it, you have to understand about the networks and the devices, and then decide for yourself which applications are really cool. And this framework here is valid for analyzing be it a GSM network and mobile telephones, or a UMTS network, or a WLAN network. And I mean, WLAN really gives you full internet access, and hopefully we will have a lot of connectivity in the coming years. And then you just continue using any application you want. For example, a massive multiplayer online game. As you probably know, in South Korea, they have 40 million inhabitants, and 4 million are playing Lineage. So it's 10% of the population playing one online game. And South Korea also has the biggest DSL penetration and the biggest 3G penetration, and the government is really crazy about bringing the whole country online and defining very helpful spectrum policies in order to provide cheap licenses. Yeah. And our government here in Germany is not so cooperative, unfortunately. But at any rate, you have to find the technology which is offering cheap or low cost of providing data. And if you have low cost of providing data, of course, you can sell the data at a low price tag. Yeah. And it really depends on the user situation. If you want to have a lot of mobility, you are running around, you are driving in your car when you make a voice call, or you concentrate on the real important applications whenever you can sit down and wherever you are. So in most cases, you don't really need a lot of wireless wide area bandwidth if you have a lot of low area bandwidth in the important situations that you are in, like for example here. Imagine we were all offline here. That would be terrible. And then the devices, now it's WLAN devices are really about laptops and some PDAs. You can put in a compact flash WLAN card and it will be built in the future, and maybe new devices coming to the market, maybe a data man, which is a small device where you carry some of your data and all your access rights to data that is stored on any server. And you connect through Bluetooth and WLAN with the other people in the room. And maybe Apple is going to the market like they did with the iPod and come up with a killer device. And here's just a little view to bring in a little bit more color of the latest designs of the mobile devices, and basically none of them is supporting WLAN at the moment. And that is one of the reasons why I was asking myself, do the mobile network operators really want WLAN? And especially in the mass market. As we learned before, the people who are using a laptop, the business people, yeah, they are provided with an expensive service, but what about the mass market? How can we WLAN enable the mass market? We need new devices. And then here's a chart, you can download it later. I'm not going into all the details, but this is really the questions. If you want to build a new device, you have to ask many questions and find many answers, and it's really complex. You wonder why they all look similar, and you wonder how little improvement there is sometimes from one generation to the next, and how you can find so many bugs or whatever. But it's really super complex, and you have to make it very small, and the power consumption is important. And then you want to have many of those features here, and multimedia and faster processors and expandable storage and whatever. Short-range connectivity. For example, it's interesting, in Japan, the current mobile phones, basically none of it is supporting Bluetooth. Yeah? The Japanese people are just not interested in it at the moment, and some people will tell you in Japan, we think it's not stable enough, Bluetooth, we need to wait a little bit more until the standard is really stable. And other people will be telling you the mobile industry in Japan is very much controlled by the mobile network operator, and that is why they want to control the content distribution. Yeah, you are buying a ringtone and you have the forward lock, you cannot forward it, or you buy a game and you cannot share it over Bluetooth, for example. Okay, here's one of my favorite charts. Actually, I calculated how much money can you charge for delivering 1 megabyte of data through SMS, and you can become really rich. You can sell it for 1,356.98 euro. That is actually including sales tax, and that is using the standard price in Germany of 19 cents for as little as 140 bytes. So that is what you call a cash cow. It's really shitting cash, you know. And in Germany, a mobile network operator like Vodafone, T-Mobile, O2 and E+, they're making around 27 euro average revenue per user per month. And 17% of the 27 euro are coming from data. But out of the 17, again, something like 95% or even more is being created by SMS. So basically, they don't make any revenue from a WAP or GPS, it's all SMS. And they're actually very slow in promoting GPRS or web stuff or whatever because they want to enjoy the cash cow as long as possible. That is another thesis I have, and we definitely can discuss it. And if you look at Japan, iMode Japan, when it was launched, they were telling the consumers, look, we have little packets, it's only 128 bytes, and you don't really have to worry about a packet, it's only costing you 0.3 yen, and if you make the calculation, you find out that they are selling a megabyte over the 2G or 2.5G PDC network. It's not GPS, it's a different standard in Japan. They actually are making 21.80 euro per megabyte alone from data traffic, and they are quite happy with that figure. And as you probably know, in Japan, the mobile network operator is sharing 91% or 90% of the premium content fees, for example, what you pay for a ringtone, a game, or whatever. And they are only taking 9%, and they are making most of the money from data traffic, and they are only following the strategy of we are a pipe. And Vodafone Live here in Germany or T-Mobile, they want to be more than a pipe. They want to ask a lot of money for distributing mobile content, which makes it difficult if you have mobile content and want to sell it, to live from it. iMode pricing in Germany is a little bit cheaper. GPS pricing in Germany depends on the data plan that you are buying, and the UMTS pricing, of course, we don't know yet because UMTS is not launched. But hopefully it will be cheap. I don't think it will be as cheap as half a euro, but it's a personal target I have. So this is the pricing part of megabytes over the air, and the costing part. It's very difficult to know about the costing part if you're not working in a network operator and you know their business plan and you're working there as a controller. So Qualcomm, probably you know Qualcomm, it's a big wireless technology company in the USA. They have $20 billion in the bank, and most of the patents for CDMA and wideband CDMA. And they have an alternative technology to GSM, GPS, it was called CDMA, and alternative technology to WCDMA, what we will be using here in Europe, it's so-called CDMA 2001X, and then you have an extended version, EVDO, data optimized, blah, blah, blah. And they are making a pitch to any operator, telling them, look, we can provide data, fast wireless data to you at a very low price tag. So please buy our technology and don't buy the GSM technology or GPS technology from Nokia or Siemens or Alcatel or whoever. And not calculating how much money you have to pay to get the license, but rather how much money it will be to put up the base stations and the network operation management and everything. You can calculate a network cost per megabyte, and then you have an average data consumption assumption of 200 megabyte, and you come to the conclusion that with their technology you can deliver, for example, 200 megabyte for €4 per month. which would give you an opportunity to charge with a flat rate, which is not too expensive. Okay, hotspot pricing, provided that probably not you, but some people you know ever need a commercial hotspot access. Vodafone Germany is offering you 30 minutes for €4, 2 hours for 10 basically, and a whole day for €25. It's really funny. Swisscom Eurospot, 9.50, 2 hours, and then different plans, and they even have a discount if you become a hotspot customer for a whole year. It's only 949, it's only €2.60 per day, which is not too bad. But then you really must like Swisscom Eurospot. And they should have a big network of own hotspots and roaming partners and so on. And T-Online, they are very funny. They are pricing by the minute. And it can happen if you forget to log off during a whole day that they charge you €230 for it. And Boingo USA is a little bit cheaper, and they have a flat rate for the first 12 months. As you can see, they're still building the market for $29.95, and the second 12 months price would be going up. So you really have to be a business traveler. It's no fun unless your company is paying the bill or the employee doesn't care for whatever reason, maybe because the company is paying. Okay, so now that's what I can do. I can work a little bit with Excel. And I have a business case here, and we can go through the numbers, and you can even get the PowerPoint of the Excel sheet and play around with it, or just do it on your own. So let's look at the revenue side. If you have a commercial hotspot, we have 3 business cases here: typical, worst, middle, best, and 1, 5, or 10 users per day. And now I have the assumption that they're making one connection of 2 hours, taking the Eurospot pricing of the chart before, 9.50. ARPU is the acronym for average revenue per user, and then you come to the conclusion that the ARPU per user is 285 per month if that user came back anytime, but it can be a different user, of course. So revenues per day, then depending on the numbers of the users, revenues per month, depending, of course, on all the other parameters, varying between 285 to 2,850, and then over a year, it's quite a bit of money, as you can see. And then access point, probably to cater to 10 users, you don't need 3 access points, so I was just playing around a little bit here. And while you calculate your access point, your DSL setup, and your flat rate, and your monthly connectivity, and then maybe a little bit of marketing, billing, admin per month, per year, and you come to some total cost and maybe some people to operate it. And leaving the people out, you come to the conclusion that even if you have only 10 users per day in a very good business case, it can be already a profitable business. But of course, it all means that you find the 10 people who are paying such a high price. But this is really the business model behind a commercial hotspot, and probably, of course, you have to add more detail to it, but a couple of investors were interested, probably not now, but during the last 2 or 3 years to invest in companies who are in that business. And yeah, so I don't know if it is a good business model in the long run, but there's some fantasy, and I just wanted to show you why we have this industry, basically. Okay, but maybe what is more interesting is being a competitor to these guys here, and how can you compete? You can compete on price. So we have to make it very cheap to be online in a hotspot run by anybody, a community, a friend, or an event location, or university, or whatever. So you are just editing a little bit the parameters and try to minimize the yellow thing here, which is how much does it cost per user per day. Is it more than a beer per day, or half a beer, or a quarter of a beer, or is it really a lot of money? Yeah? And so the gross profit basically it should be zero in a non-profit organization. Maybe you want to donate some money to some people like Freifunk or whoever, or all the people who are pushing the idea of opening up their DSL connection with a wireless access point. Yeah? And I mean, then you do the marketing in your neighborhood among your friends, and you're just telling them, why don't you cancel your T-Online DSL flat rate or wherever you buy it, and you just become a co-user of my access point, and then we are sharing the cost. It's basically a simple idea, and if you use some firewall, you can probably make it quite secure too. And you can still know about the identity of the user. Probably people have to identify. They cannot log on anonymously. So it's not so expensive to buy the equipment and to put up a free hotspot or a very, very cheap hotspot for your friends. A couple of key issues. Of course, roaming. If you're not in the commercial business still, you have to find a kind of agreement, and people call it PICO peering agreement. And it basically is a one-sheet paper saying that I'm allowing under these terms and conditions access to my access point, and I want to connect to other access points, maybe point-to-point or however. If they're near enough, you don't need point-to-point. And then, of course, if you want to do some cost sharing and you have to find some payment method, Excellent is not really cool because it's an operator-dependent technology. You need the mobile numbers from the operators in order to authentify and authorize the users paying with their mobile phone. Maybe you're using PayPal or bank transfer or just pay in cash if you know the operator of the hotspot. You need some user management to block bad or non-paying users or non-cost sharing users, and a little bit of community support in terms of know-how sharing. The people in the know help the newbies, the greenhorns. And viral marketing, I think, is really, really powerful because you just need a database, a hotspot database, and you register there, and if you tell people, look, my hotspot is very cheap or even for free because I don't care about paying 80 euro and 200 for the access point, and I don't want anybody to give me anything back, I'm just providing free bandwidth. And this makes it even more simple. You don't need a payment method. And but this hotspot database, of course, is quite cool, and maybe it's not only with the big screen interface, it has maybe a WAP interface, and you can search a hotspot with your mobile phone on a WAP page with a WAP request. And then purchasing, it's already introducing the next slide. The people can organize through the network in order to buy the equipment and the connectivity. And you just need a website for this purchasing community. And you, of course, this purchasing community can also, buy whatever equipment. It must not only be WLAN stuff, but a little bit of PR and marketing, and then you just collect the order for something, and then you buy somewhere, sometime for the best deal, and then you just spread it out, and you can negotiate volume discounts, and then receive, install the equipment, help each other, and then the whole neighborhood, maybe 100 people, they got a good discount on the DSL connection and the access point, and they're setting up maybe a whole quarter in Berlin just by getting organized. I think it's really simple. Okay, now, and I'm coming already to the end, and I don't know why I was given 2 hours to talk to you about that subject, unless you have a million questions, or maybe 10. But now, I don't know how many access points we really need in Germany, because I didn't calculate the geography, the territory, I was just assuming numbers, and if you know the reach of one hotspot, and you know the population density and how much percent of the population you want to cover, then you come to the number. It costs number of access points yourself. So I was asking at the beginning of my presentation how much money do we need to cover the whole of Germany with hotspots, and how much money was only paid for the UMTS licenses. Of course, this is not including many billions of euro in order to build the infrastructure. And WLAN is until now free of any license. It's still free, and hopefully it won't change. But of course, the regulators get a lot of pressure from the operators lobbying if the Wi-Fi community, us here in the room, at least the people who want to get active or who are already active. And if we become very strong and we provide very cheap bandwidth, and the operators going to have to reduce their pricing and their costs and probably lay off people and whatever, and make less profit from data and voice, of course, because this is, as I explained to you before, voice over IP in this scenario is absolutely fantastic. And we are not only going to compete with the mobile network operators, but of course with the fixed telcos like the Deutsche Telekom or whoever is involved in the business. So we are actually trying to reduce our communication budget with this technology, and what is following in the spectrum that doesn't have any license, or that doesn't need any license. Yeah? So I think it's really a funny game. And I wonder how much time we need, how much patience we need in order to cover the whole of Germany. And while I was talking, probably you have looked at the numbers yourself already. And okay, why not building 1.5 million hotspots in Germany? Maybe we can cover a lot. And I'm using the same cost basically for an access point and for the DSL connection, fast DSL with a flat rate. And maybe you need some community website management and whatever. I mean, whatever you need there. I even have millions of euro for community website management. Yeah, you can have a whole team of experts driving around Germany, helping people setting up the whole thing, because in this game is so much money, you cannot believe it. It's only a question of how big you are thinking, okay? All right, so here, costing is $2.5 billion euro. It's a lot of money, yeah? But as I told you before, 50 billion euro was paid only for buying the UMTS licenses. So here we are talking about 5% of the money already spent, and which helped reduce our federal budget deficit and helped Schröder to stay in power for a little longer. And yeah, but here it's not so much money, and actually the money is spent anyway, because even a part of the money is already spent, because you guys have all your flat rates and you guys have all your access points already, or you are planning to buy it, and it has already started. So there's not 1.5 million hotspots in Germany, and probably nobody knows. Mobile access, I don't know how much entries they have in their database, but probably there's a couple of thousand or even 10,000 at the moment. So it's a long way to go, but it only is a question of how much energy we put behind it. And the winner is Wi-Fi. Okay, now I have a couple of German charts, but I continue speaking in English. This is a couple of guys here in Friedrichshain, a quarter in Berlin, Kinzigstraße, and the guys are also the main active people of Freifunknet, and they had one house, and they had 35 people living in the house, and they had cabling in the house, and they wanted to share the DSL connection, broadband connection, and they wanted to not only consume data, but also produce and provide data content. and they wanted to connect for free or for very, very little money with the friends in the neighborhood, in the barrio. And then the people in the local environment should be invited to share. And here you can see how many, where they connected and where it is situated, and they put up 2 access points, and they had a directed antenna for a line of sight point-to-point connectivity to an ISP at a distance of 1 kilometer. And they bought a flat rate with their own IP, of course, for €100. And then they had a 360-degree antenna directly connected at the access point, and they had their own security and a little Linux router and firewall. And now 35 people are online in the house, and they're sharing the cost €4 per person, including the installation. And already 3 neighboring flat communities are interconnected, and they can exchange data legally, illegally between each other. Yeah? And the costs in total, including a used PC, €700. You probably need some know-how. Most of the people here in the room have the know-how. I probably would ask those people helping me putting up the hotspot on my house, but that's why we are here. We can help each other, so it's not a big problem. And Berlin Backbone then is another idea, and Kinzigstraße 9, number 9, is a part of the Berlin Backbone. It's actually the idea of interconnecting a couple of culture epicenters inside of Berlin, and this place here, I think it's part of the backbone, or will be part of the backbone. As you can see here in the middle, Alexanderplatz, and then the sea base and Tacheles and in Friedrichshain, different locations. I think you can check it out on the web. 10 projects, and the first phase should be interconnected. And then those culture location centers become a non-profit hotspot provider or free hotspot provider at the same time, of course. And here you're building the backbone. That's why it's called, of course, Berlin Backbone. And then here giving you another idea, because in Berlin we have connectivity, we have DSL. In Friedrichshain they didn't have DSL, so that was actually the main reason why they started. But in other parts we have different ways of connecting. But still, in the middle of Berlin, we are creating the wireless Berlin Backbone. Not me personally, but other people do it. And here I think in the northeast of Denmark is a region called Djursland. Few people living there, and not very high population density, probably just the contrary of population density. And it's a poor region, and the local government is thinking how they should spend their money, and they are cutting costs whenever they can. So in '98 they closed the harbor, in 2002 they closed the hospital, and they are thinking about closing an airport, and they don't have a local newspaper anymore, so it's really it's shutting down the region basically. But the people are not shutting down. The 82,000, they probably love their region. So they were looking for connectivity, because, as you know, the Danish people or the Scandinavian people in general, they like connectivity and being online very much. But the existing telcos or cellcos or whatever, they all said bringing broadband internet access to the region is basically too expensive. We are not interested in doing it because we cannot make any money from it. So here again you have a typical map of how such a network is spreading out and how it will interconnect and where the backbone is and so on. It's probably a lot of fun to create such a network, to plan it, to optimize it, to watch data flow and to see where you have a low capacity and you have to increase it. But somehow The hospital had a fiber connection, and they were basically reusing it. And that fiber connection was the connection to the Danish backbone. And then from that fiber line, the connectivity or the bandwidth was distributed using WLAN in a 360-degree way of doing it, or point-to-point. And they're coming basically wherever they want to come. It's only a question of planning and building and using cheap equipment and so on. And then, of course, like all the antenna freaks do it, they created their own antenna design and they optimized it, and they're selling to individuals at home, or maybe companies, or whatever, a kind of starter kit. It has an antenna and a pre-configured access point, and the access point is in a little box which is waterproof, and you can put it up outside on your roof. And it's quite cheap. And then the monthly fee is also quite cheap. And then the speed, the throughput, the data throughput is quite good, depending, of course, on the number of people sharing an access point, and then the backbone, of course. And they are planning probably until the next 3 or 4 days, they want to have connected 3,500 of the households. Okay, and this is the end of my presentation. Thank you so much. Any questions, any comments? Or did you get enough? Then we take a big break. Okay, can you go to the microphone, please? Is it possible? So you will be recorded. Yeah.
Okay. As I see it, what you presented is that we should offer some hotspot service. We can also do some billing or something like this. And we, from my point of view, as long as everybody's nice, it's okay for us. But if somebody's not nice to us, we go into jail. That is because if we offer a hotspot service based on our own line, and somebody steps into our hotspot offering child porn or something like this, we go into jail because we are the service provider for the end user. How is that being technically tracked down to prevent misuse?
I can't give you a very precise technical answer to the question. Of course, you need some software, some user management software, and you probably want to invite to your hotspot only people that you know and that you can trust. Okay, and these people get an ID and a login and a password from you. Of course, you have the problem, you are becoming a service provider yourself, and if your users are breaking laws, you are obliged to give out the identity data of your user. So there has to be some user agreement, the users have to read it and they have to agree to it and click on a button, and you need this kind of policy, yeah? And whatever software you're using for this policy, you probably know the answers, and hopefully soon we will have very good open source software to do it, and maybe some of the people out there are already developing it, but you really need this kind of policy. And you don't, I mean, if it is starting among friends, and how many friends do you have in your neighborhood and among your neighbors, and that is people you can trust, probably the number of intruders, of law breakers is quite small.
But why do I need a billing software then?
No, probably
I only give out my group key and they know it, and everybody others will be not able to get into my hotspot. If I'm talking about a hotspot that is a public service to anybody else who wants to join this hotspot, But the problem is for the German law, if I offer this hotspot to anybody, virtually anybody, who just enters a credit card or something like this, I am the service provider.
Yeah,
So that brings me to jail.
You are even a service provider, I believe, and again, then we have to really ask some of the lawyers knowing all the nitty-gritty stuff of the laws, but I think you are already responsible if you are not a commercial provider, but a free private provider, and you can forget about the billing system. You just need a user management, and you just need and you don't need any payment or billing because you want to give it for free. As I said, for example, myself, I probably will open my hotspot up without charging for it. And I was just playing around numbers, and if nobody's charging, even better, then we really have not a free network, because some people are taking over the cost for the hardware and the connectivity, but it's okay.
Then they probably go into jail.
Yeah, I mean, if your users are breaking laws, then you get into trouble. Yeah, and I mean, I don't have the solution to the answer, but there's probably there's a solution to a technical problem, and most importantly, you need a solution for the human problem. Okay, and if it is starting among friends and people you can trust, I think. I mean, many here are hackers, and probably you think I'm crazy what I'm saying, but I mean, this is really the community approach.
Yeah, but why then slides with hundreds and millions of hotspots? Because I can only build up a system closed for just a few users and no more.
Exactly. I mean, this slide is only one way to go into the future. On some of the ideas, there's only one way to go into the future, because we will go into the future anyway, and many of the people here in the room and who believe in the idea and who have the same vision, they will do it anyway. And they will organize and get organized in small groups of people or big groups of people. And if you organize a big group of people, knowing about these numbers, I thought was a good added value to the discussion. Do we have a second question over there? Or comment?
Okay, a question about the legal situation. For example, you are private and you have a flat rate from a big provider who provides the flat rate service. I think you are not allowed to give the whole village the access to your flat rate and to your traffic. So they will at least stop the agreement with you, or they will sue you to pay money for the extra traffic you generated, or something else.
Okay, as you know, for example, in the DSL market, there's already a lot of competition. And if you look at the offering of each DSL provider in detail, you find differences in terms of what you can do with your DSL connection. So you should actually look for the providers, and for some of them, for the small players, it will be a competitive differentiator to give their users more freedom. It's a multi-user, probably fixed IP address, and probably multi-user means wherever they are, they can use it. Probably you get a little bit different pricing if you start reselling it commercially. Probably if you do it on a cost-sharing basis, because if you pay cash, nobody will know that you share the cost, or that your friend is giving you 10 euro to help you buy a new, faster, super cool access point or whatever. Nobody will know about it. And it really depends on the terms and conditions, or in German, AGB, of the different providers in the market. For example, in the beginning, T-Online, I think, was not allowing multi-user, and now it's changing also. The big players are seeing that the freedom we have, or we are given by the newcomers of the small, the more aggressive competitors in the market, that this freedom can become a threat for them over time.
Okay, and what about being a provider and for the law thing? You are a provider, and some people do nasty things. For example, hack into the police departments and deface web pages, or do something else. then they will see that it's your static IP, and then they will put all your hardware you have in your home, and you will not see it again until it's obsolete.
Yeah, I think this is really worst case, but it will definitely happen sooner or later. And you can only prevent it from staying completely offline. As you know, WLAN security is not so good at the moment. And I don't know whether you want to use VPN software or IPsec or whatever for the people who are sharing your hotspot. But if you ever share a hotspot, I do recommend that you know the identity of the people getting access. And at least you have some way to find out about the identity. And then an anonymous user is hacking into your system, and then I really don't know what to do. Yeah? Then, I mean, you are in trouble, and probably this is a kind of risk that you're having whenever you're opening up a network. Some people might find a way to go deeper into the rest of the internet through your access point.
Is there the possibility to have an underground network, for example, get traffic, and the person who sells the traffic doesn't know who you are until you only pay?
I think anything is possible. And the underground network idea is one which is really cool. And for example, the guys who interconnected in Kinzigstraße in Friedrichshain, they can exchange over WLAN data with people in the next hotspot or hot zone, or however you want to call it, or behind the next access point. For the people who don't like the word hotspot, it's just a common term in that discussion. And you can actually exchange data, and also illegal data, among the people who are in the wireless network, and you do it in a way that is not connected to the rest of the internet, and then it becomes a closed local area or multi-local area network, and then you can do anything inside that area, and probably this will become very fashionable in the future to have this kind of underground network, because this is probably where we are going if file sharing really is no more fun because record companies are suing us or something. Then that's probably the way how we do it, and we can do it with cables or without cables.
Okay.
Hello, test. Hello, test.
Okay.
I've got a question. Could it be possible that you get in contract on the basis of an eingetragener Verein or something like that? So a group is a group rent the internet connectivity, and it holds in log files who is accessing what IP, and if an misuse is detected, you can give this information maybe to the police department, and not you for yourself. You for yourself got in jail, but who stands in the logs because all in the group is signing the contract.
It's a good idea, and there's already many associations or Vereine, eingetragene Vereine. Not many, but I mean Freifunk.net, Freifunk, they are becoming a Verein too, and I don't know how much they will be involved in operating a network. They want to be involved in spreading the information and organizing the groups of people behind it, but then another Verein will be focused on operating the network, and of course it is a good idea to do it.
So there are no legal issues that say that there must some responsible person or something like that? So it is possible that the responsibility is shared among many users and not reserved to one user.
Yeah, I mean, this is again more a lawyer type of thing, how much responsibility the directors of the Verein have, and how close you can come to make them reliable if any law is broken. Yeah, I mean, to be continued by another expert. Okay, anybody happy? And then again, thank you very much for sharing your time here with me and the subject, and enjoy the event, the final day. Thank you.